had a JS workshop for a really long time, so I'm really excited. Sherry, who in my view window here, seemingly to my left, she's joining us from Calgary, and Lauren to my right, or other, right? I don't know. Yeah, she's joining us from Montreal, but this meetup actually used to happen in real life in Toronto, and we have a Slack channel as well, which you can find on torontojs.com. You can click join Slack if you have any questions as well, as there often will be when we're running workshops or when we're giving talks. Feel free to ask in the channel. There's, in all likelihood, actually, like someone else might be having the same question. It's funny, even working in web dev for like 5 years, I'm still pulling up like Mozilla docs on how to use like .reduce or .map. Like it's not something I keep etched in my head. So we want to bring down that anxiety and also like just really learn the basics of how to build a browser extension, which I'm really psyched about. And this is Nicole. She now works at Crowdstrike as a UX engineer. She previously worked at Circle CI, League, and TWG. And I'm probably missing a couple of places here, but yeah, you are a seasoned sailor of the web world, and super excited for you to present this.
Yeah, just to start, like, because we're going to be building like little pop-up extensions. If you want to go find some icons, you can go to this flat icon site. We'll share it in the chat. And like, basically, you can just download, if you go to download the PNG, you can download a PNG for free. You just have to scroll to where it says free download and then click the button if you want to do that. So yes, so you know, the interface is a little weird, which is why I kind of wanted to show people. And so you can save the file, and then that went to my downloads folder. So that's just a little bit of setup. There's also Unsplash. If we're lucky, we're gonna build something that injects images into a page. So you can go to Unsplash and download some kittens and puppies, just of your liking, to get that ready. But I think also, if you go to the web extension repo that I shared, which should be this one, it just says web extension workshop. I think I put images already in there for that one, but it's just, if you want to have your own icon, you can just download that now. So thanks everyone for coming. Today we're going to be talking about building browser extensions with the web extension API. So I'm going to try to keep this sort of jargon free and hopefully with lots of pictures to explain the concepts. Building browser extensions is like really fun, and it's like building a web page, but not quite. So that's kind of what we want to talk about today. The first thing, just to start at the beginning, is what is a browser extension? And an extension is just like anything that adds features and functions to a browser. So you're probably familiar with, like, you know, ad block, but you can also do all sorts of things. You can change the appearance of a web page. There's like add-ons to like make your browser be in like dark mode all the time. You can modify or view users' browser history. You can also fill out forms, translate languages, and you can intercept and modify network requests. So there's this one, I think this is called Requestly or something. And like, basically, like if you're waiting for a production API endpoint to be built, you can like intercept, like you can write a web page that'll like hit prod, but it'll intercept, and then you can insert like mock data from like a staging API or something. So you don't have to like keep rewriting your like going, if in dev mode, point to staging, and then if in prod mode, point to prod. You can also, like, there's apps that help you learn a new language while you're browsing the web. This one is specific to Safari users. If you're using YouTube, there's this thing called Vinegar, which is a tube cleaner. It scrubs all the ads out and like kind of simplifies the user interface. There's stuff like Ginger and Grammarly, where it just like kind of reads the text that you're typing in and like helps you to write better grammar. Yeah, And we're going to be doing this with something called the Web Extension API. So I just want to flip to the console for a second, just to kind of explain. So, you know, when you type in Navigator here, it's this huge object with like a whole bunch of different things on it, right? And then if you type in window, again, it's a huge object with like a bunch of things on it. But if you type in browser, which is what we're going to be doing, you'll see that browser isn't defined. And that's because stuff that begins with browser only works in browser extensions. So yeah, could people see that code? Is it like big enough? I'm like super blind, so I like things big, but yeah. So yeah, browser, the Web Extension API is a series of JavaScript APIs that work with extension JavaScript files. They don't work in regular web pages. They'll throw errors because browser is not defined. It works in all Chromium browsers with the help of a polyfill. And they always start with the word browser. So it's like browser.storage or browser.other things. You can polyfill it. We're going to polyfill it for Chrome. And it has limited Safari support. So very briefly, we're going to talk about what is not the Web Extensions API, and that's anything with Chrome. So sometimes you see Chrome extensions and they write them with Chrome, like it starts with Chrome, but it's actually like, in my opinion, it's a little bit harder to use because it uses callbacks, and like most of us don't write JavaScript with callbacks anymore. That's kind of a style that was popular years and years ago, but it's not really people's first choice. And the Web Extensions API uses promises, which means most of the time you can get away with using async await. So it's a little bit of a nicer coding experience. So to make a browser extension, you really just need one thing, which is a manifest file. And I just want to spend a little time talking about this because manifest can mean like kind of all these different things. This is not the manifest we're talking about. So that whole idea of manifesting like your dreams and stuff, it's not that kind of manifest. It's like the other kind of manifest that people talk about like in planes and cargo and shipping. And it's like a manifest is just like a list of like all the cargo and crew. That's kind of what a manifest is for a web extension. It's kind of like a package JSON file. It lists all the JavaScript files, the CSS files, any images you're using in your extension, you have to list in your manifest, all the icons that you're going to be using, logos, you put that stuff in your manifest. And the manifest also creates like a list of like permissions and stuff. So if you need to request permissions, users can look at your extension in the App Store and be like, oh, this app is like, this extension is going to use local storage, or it's going to look at all the text on my screen. So kind of gives people an idea of what you're taking over when they install your extension. So I'm just going to flip over here. Okay, so this is my desktop. I'm going to make a directory and I'm going to call it hot pink. And I'm going to change to hot pink. And then I'm going to open up VS Code. So yeah, I'm going to make 2 files here. So the first file is manifest.json. And I don't know if I'm going to try to make it a little bigger. Spelling matters. It's really easy to type this like as mainfest instead of manifest. And if you try to load that, you won't get a very pretty error message saying you haven't spelled it correctly. You'll just get an error, and it's a not very helpful one. And then we're going to make another file, which is a CSS file. So manifest needs, it needs 3 things to work. So it needs to have this thing called a manifest version, which we're going to talk about in a bit more detail after this demo. But for now, just leave it at manifest version 2. There's a bunch of controversy about the latest version of manifest, which is manifest version 3. I think it like disables ad blockers, so people aren't very pleased with it. And yes, there's also your version of the extension. So for me, I'm just going to make it maybe 0.1 or something. I don't know here. and then you need to give it a name. And it should, this name's going to be hot pink. So we're just going to like try to install this and see if it works. It doesn't do anything yet, but so to do that, I go to Firefox and I type in about debugging. And then you see this button here where it says this Firefox. I click on that. So yeah, just to repeat, you type in about : debugging, hit enter, and then click on this Firefox. We're going to try to load it. So you go to hot pink and you choose the manifest, and then we'll see what happens here. Okay, so hot pink is in. It doesn't do anything, and it has a jigsaw puzzle piece. That's because we don't have an icon for it. How about, did anyone else try? Are we having any issues with that? Seems pretty straightforward. If you're having errors, it's usually from, yeah, not spelling the manifest correctly and then not having these three things. So I'm also going to give this a description. And it's just going to be change background color. And then here's where it starts to get a little weird. We have this thing called content scripts, and it's with an S because it takes an array and it could take multiple things. So it has to be content underscore scripts, and it's plural. And then we have to tell content scripts are a really good entry point for building an extension because it works just like regular web pages. But the setup is a little weird. First, you have to tell it what sites you want to run this content script on. And then you have to give it an array. And then you have to give it this really weird thing, which is an arrow, and then all URLs, and then an arrow. So this is a very permissive level that installs the content script in every single page. If you're trying to publish an actual extension to the, like an extension store, like the Firefox store, the Chrome store, probably don't do this, but this is just for demo purposes. And then we're going to use a content script that's a CSS page, and that also takes an array, and it's style.css, and it does not begin with an arrow. So a couple of gotchas here. Make sure your content script has an S on it. Make sure this is an array. And then make sure matches takes an array and CSS takes an array, because you will get errors, and we can kind of go into that in a minute. Yeah, Lauren, did we try the star thing? Or I'm just going to hit all these tags so you can.
Yeah, if you're lazy like me, you could just do star and then it'll target every element.
Okay.
Or we can be more selective.
Okay, so we're going to try the star because my approach before was typing in like all these HTML tags. So I'm going to make the background color, and it's going to be hot pink, and I'm going to make it important, which is like, okay, I know in regular web development using important is a no-no, but in web extension world, it happens kind of often because like you want to override whatever the user has. And this is one way to do it. I guess the other way is with CSS layers, but like I said, I haven't done that. Okay, so we have our code, but pretty sure Firefox doesn't know about it yet. So we're going to reload. And then we're going to go, whoa, okay, that's intense. I think if we go to medium.com, yeah, this is like kind of the look.
Boom, web extension done. Yeah.
Wow.
And then so you can try like turquoise. Will it reload right away? I think it's a little confused here because we have to hit reload, and then I'm like, oh, there we go. Yeah. So as you can see, there's a couple problems with this. Like we can't turn it on and off. There's a lot of like brute force stuff, but just to give you an idea of like your extension doesn't need a lot of code. Like sometimes you can just start off building small and then kind of go from there. So just to save my eyes, I'm going to hit this remove button. It's at the bottom here, and then I'm back to normal. Okay, so that was the first demo. I'm just going to recap some of the stuff. and slide form so people have a reference if they're trying to do stuff. So you have to turn on developer mode. This is for Chrome. Then you have to load your extension. And after you make changes to your code, you pretty much have to hit the reload button all the time, except for things like pop-up scripts, like pop-up HTML. It doesn't seem to need reloading, but you probably should reload if you're changing your JavaScript. So again, for Firefox, you go to About Debugging, you hit enter, and then you select this Firefox, and then you click Load Temporary Add-on. So that's the instructions for Firefox. And then for Chrome, you have to go to Chrome:/extensions. Make sure you turn on developer mode and then load unpacked. So just have that in picture form for people for reference later. And now we're going to talk about the anatomy of an extension. Okay, so this stuff is a bit of a fire hose of information. If people want, they can ask questions in chat, and then hopefully someone will pick it up and repeat it to me. Repeat explanations is like totally an okay thing, because it's like, yeah, there's a lot of jargon, and I'm gonna try to like distill it in the most easy to understand way I can, hopefully. So the manifest file, use version 2 for now. Manifest version and name are required. And then this is a little confusing. Even though it's JSON, you can use these, you can write comments in the code, which your VS Code will like complain about, but yeah, when you load it, it doesn't care. Like if you put comments in, it'll just ignore it and load the manifest. So that's a weird thing that's not allowed in JSON, but it's totally allowed in your manifest. The key value pairs are not made up. There is documentation. It's good to refer to the documentation because like the error messages are not super like helpful. So like if you don't write it in the form they want, like if I accidentally made this like a curly bracket or something, it would like fail in like this really unhelpful way. So just warning you, formatting like matters. URLs. Okay, so when you write links to your files, it's relative to the extension root. So good practice is to console log or stick in red borders on things just to confirm that everything's working. So for here, you see style, it's just relative, like it's in the same, it's relative to where you put your manifest. So if I made something like, styles, and then I stuck style in here, this would have to be like styles.style. And as a debugging tip, like you should just make sure all the links are working before you start writing code, because it's like a little primitive that way. Like it won't warn you. Yeah, I haven't found like a great linter for the manifest that says, hey, this link is totally wrong or whatever. So yeah. Content scripts is one thing we're going to focus on quite a bit. These files are most like the regular HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files. It uses some browser API, so it uses some web extension APIs, but for security reasons, it doesn't use all. Those like really like there's other permissions that are like locked off in the world of the extension, and it's kind of just a security thing, so extensions can't do malicious things to people's web pages and stuff. Content scripts get injected into specified web pages. So as you can see before, I wrote all URLs, that sticks it in everything. You might not want that. And then also, sometimes websites have stuff turned on, so your extension won't work in their website. So that's just something to be aware of. Content scripts. Again, I used all URLs. This part, okay, so content scripts often get written in immediately invoked function. What are they called again? IIFEs. So this is just because there are lots of extensions and you don't want your variables to have the same name as somebody else's extension, and then they clash with each other and then they don't work. So they're usually written in this kind of old school function thing that I'm going to show you. Usually has some kind of guard to only run it once. This is because content scripts kind of get run over and over and over, and like you don't want to be accidentally adding the same event listener that does the same thing. because then you're going to get unexpected results. So there's usually some guard at the top to make sure it only runs once per time. Each content script gets injected into each tab. This is where things get confusing, because when we do message sending, you have to send the message and then specify which tab you're going to send it to, or else the content script gets confused. But the nice thing about content scripts is you can debug them like a regular web page. Browser action, this is another thing that you'll probably use quite a bit. It adds a button to your toolbar. It's if you want to make a pop-up window, you use this browser action, you add it into your manifest. And then default pop-up is the pop-up that will appear. You can style it however you want. This has a separate dev tool. The pop-up is in a different dev tool, so we're going to go into that. And then the weird thing with the pop-up is it can't speak to the content script directly. So when the pop-up you want it to tell the content script to do something, you have to do it by local storage or sending messages or opening a port if you're going to send a bunch of messages, which we'll talk about in a bit. Again, permissions. You need permissions to use some browsers settings. For example, if you want to have an extension that uses local storage, you need to ask for the storage permission, or else like you won't be able to use browser storage API. Okay, so the next demo is a basic pop-up. So this is actually a direct ripoff of a Firefox tutorial, but I just changed the filter. But anyway, so I'm going to make a directory and I'm going to call it grayscale. And I'm going to change into grayscale and I'm going to open up the code. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to go and find that cat I downloaded. And I'm going to see, does it let me drag it here? Yeah, there you go. And I'm going to rename it to cat. Okay. And then I'm going to make another thing called a manifest, JSON. And I'm going to make another file called content script. And I'm going to make an HTML file called popup and a JS file. And I think that's it. Okay. So just to recap, we have our cat icon. We have a content script. We're going to write a console log and it's going to say hello from the content script. And then we're going to have a pop-up and it's going to say hello from the pop-up. And then here is, I'm going to use a VS Code. I don't know if everyone's in VS Code, but if you hit enter, if you hit exclamation, you should have Emmet Auto installed in VS Code. And then if you hit return, that'll give you an HTML document because I never know how to write that stuff off the top of my head. I just use the Emmet. So I'm just going to say pop up. I'm just going to say.
That is a dandy VS Code extension.
Yeah, I think it's like just comes with it now. So
Default, Jen, default.
But yeah, okay. So now we have an empty manifest. So we're gonna go in here. We're gonna give it again double quotes. I always forget. Grayscale, and it's gonna be version. We're going to give it a version of 1.0 and we have to give it a manifest version. So again, these are the three things you absolutely must have for your manifest to work. And then this is where it gets weird. And yeah, content scripts takes an array. There is another way to write matches, which is I forgot, maybe someone could tell me this format where it's like, use this, is that glob? Does anyone know?
When you say glob, do you mean like an path extension for looking for a certain file type where you go /***?
Yeah, is that what it is? Because basically I want to say, hey, make this work on any HTTP or HTTPS, but that's what it's called? It's called glob. Is it called glob or am I mixing it up? I don't know.
Like slug, or are you talking about the star as wildcards?
Yeah, this is like, so it'll work on anything beginning with HTTP. And then this one will work with anything beginning on HTTPS. So yeah, that's the idea at any rate. And then, okay, so these things have to match. So if you name this content script here, it has to be named content script here. And you put in the console log just to make sure it's all going to work after. Yeah, and now we have to do that browser action. So I think browser action is different. It takes an object, which is very confusing. And you have to give it a default icon. And I'm just going to say it's 16. I don't know why. I think I downloaded something bigger than that, but it's a cat. And we're going to have our default underscore popup. And it's going to be a popup HTML. And then we're going to give it the permissions. And this takes an array. And this one is, I don't even know if you need both of these, but I'm just going to do it. So there's storage and there's active tab because we want to do stuff in the active tab. Okay, so this is where we're going to flip over because Lauren and I were doing some testing last night, and yeah, we had a very bad time in Firefox with this.
Very bad.
Very bad. Once you want to start debugging like pop-ups, like don't even try with Firefox. If you Google it as an issue, there's like, yeah, there's like so many problems. It's like they fix it and then it breaks, and then they fix it and then it breaks. So
both Firefox users, and we stopped. We just switched to Chrome after a while. Like, let's just go to Chrome, right?
Oh yeah, there's a step I forgot. I'm going to show you. It's going to break, but I'm going to show you why. And then, okay, so we're in developer mode. We load unpacked, and we're going to go here. So we're going to choose grayscale, and Chrome is a little different. You just choose a folder and then it loads stuff. So here it is. I like don't see. Okay, this is a weird thing with Chrome 2, and I wish I could zoom in, but I can't for people here. But there's this jigsaw puzzle, and then you have to click it, and then you click that, and then it shows up, and then that's your pop-up. And we're probably going to see a bunch of JavaScript errors because now we need to go and get the polyfill. But let's see here. If I go to, maybe I'll go to CBC News, and then if I go inspect, see here, you should see that hello from the content script. And then if you right click, whoops. So this is weird. So you have to click and open your thing. And then if you right click in the area of inside of your pop-up, then you get another, there's your pop-up code. So that's the HTML. And I think I forgot to link the JavaScript. So you won't see hello from the pop-up yet. So we're going to go into that. But first we need to take a segue, and we need to do web extension polyfill, because now we're in Chrome, we need to stick the polyfill in there. So there's this Mozilla web extension polyfill, and I always CDN, hold on, polyfill. Maybe that's the wrong thing to look for. I need to get to the releases page, which I think is just, someone give me a GitHub refresher. Oh yes, here, releases. And then you can just go here, get the latest version, go get this JavaScript, click view raw, and you can like download it, but I'm just gonna copy and paste it into this.
And that did look like an immediately invoked function execution type of function. So it's surrounded by brackets.
Yeah.
Started with like a curvy bracket, probably ends with one.
So I was reading this morning because I'm like, why do we have to use such old school code? And so I have a little bit of an explanation, which is this. So immediately invoked function executions, they look like two winky eyes or two eyes, right? And then inside of it, you write the word function, you write a function like that. And then let's say I made something like a cat. I don't know, can I even like put a cat in here? Oh yeah. So yeah, inside of that cat world, you can do, cat exists inside of there, right? But if you, look, where's my error message? Oh, maybe it doesn't like, oh, I know what I did. Yeah, this is supposed to be. So, but when you do cat, it doesn't exist outside of that immediately invoked function. So that's like this old school JavaScript way of like not letting your variables like kind of go and pollute other people's code. So that's why things need to be written in that weird old way. I could be wrong about this. Like maybe you can use these modules now for your extensions, but I haven't tried it yet. And all the examples I see in like the Mozilla documentation uses that immediately invoked function thing that I keep forgetting. Yeah. So we got that. We got the browser polyfill. And then this, I think, okay. I think it's like this off the top of my head, but if I get it wrong, I'll go look at the documentation in the GitHub repo. So you type browser polyfill. So you want the polyfill to like kind of load before your other code. So for the case of the content script, you want to make sure the browser polyfill is the first item in the array. And then for the pop-up, I think I'm going to do this. So if you type in script, again, you can do emit. So if you press enter, that'll give you your script. And then you can, the nice thing is VS Code seems to like magically write the links for you so you don't make goofs. So I'm going to do the script again, and then I'm going to go to SRC and I'm going to choose a browser polyfill. So like, yeah, again, you want to kind of like put the browser polyfill in first, because the polyfill needs to like go tell the browser that it can use this browser extension API. I see a lot of stuff going on in the chat. Are there any like questions that came up or anything? Because I'm not looking at the chat. I'm like,
We got our eyes on the chat.
okay.
That's why
Don't-
we're here.
Don't worry. We're here on standby.
Okay, so where are we here? Okay, so we're back to loading. No, we're not in Firefox. We are in Chrome. Okay, so I am just struggling with the zoom bar a little. We're going to go to the extension and we're going to, there is a button here. This is the reload button. So it says reloaded. We don't see any errors. Sometimes you see errors here. And there's a big gotcha, because if you fix your error, it'll still say error there. So you'll see like a message that says error and you have to click on it and you have to go in and clear the error. So that's just a gotcha.
Yeah, I had an error for like 20 minutes. If you have an error, don't worry, you'll do better than I did.
Oh, we were both in that land. We're like, what's wrong? We've changed it so many
The
times.
error was fixed many times, and
Yeah.
still we didn't reload. So
Yeah, primitive tools. So yeah, let's just go double check that this is again still working. So we load our page, we still see hello from the content script, so that's all working good. And then we see our pop-up here, and if we inspect, we see we have a browser polyfill, so that's all looking good. And if we go to console, we see hello from the pop-up. So just going to recap this. There are different dev tools for different parts of your browser extension. If you start to build like a dev tool panel, which is like out of the scope of this workshop, there's another dev tool for that too. So you, and then I think there's a dev tool if you build a background script, like sometimes you'll just have to have like 3 or 4 different windows open for your debugging, and it's going to get a little confusing. I guess you can tell here, like I can't zoom in, but I wonder, can I plus plus? No. Why do you only make some things bigger? But I don't know if you can see that there's like an address here, but you can see that this is your pop-up HTML file. So that's kind of like the tip there. And then you can do things like click in. Will it let you click? Oh, you can reveal it in sources panel. So you can see that your code is here. So there's the polyfill, and there's your console log. And then I guess ideally you can just use like regular debugging DevTools type things. So back to the code. So we have some stuff here. We're going to change it up a bit. So this is just some like super basic styling. Okay, so we're going to make a label. And inside of that label, what we got here? Can everyone see like the code editor? It's all good. We have an input, and we're going to make it a range because we want to make a slider, and it's going to be a percentage slider, so it's going to go from 0 to 100. And we're going to give it a value of 0 and a width of 100. And that's an input, and we're going to call this grayscale. And we're just going to stick in some like super basic styling, just so it doesn't look like totally ugly. But it's like nothing, like we're not going to like add in a custom font or anything like that. So our body, we're going to give it a padding of 10 pixels, and then our input, it's going to have a margin left of 10 pixels. And our label is going to be display flex because we're lazy. We want the text to go to the left and the input to go to the right. So we're going to align the content center. Okay, so let's see if we see it here. Yes, so it just looks like that. And it's like very understyled, but yeah, it's for kind of demo purposes. So now we're in our pop-up. And we're going to have to go to the popup.js. And now we know the pop-up's loading, so we can get rid of that line. And we're going to do something with the input in the pop-up. So we have to go select it. So we're going to do document query selector input. I guess like, yeah, in the future, you'll be using React, so you won't have to use document query selector, but just for this demo. We're going to also add an event listener, and we're going to listen to the change event. And when we see a change, we're going to set the value. We're going to call this function set value that we're just going to write in a minute. And it's target value, I think. And we have async function. So yeah, so all these browser star, all the things that we use with browser are promise-based, so we have to write async await. And we're going to write await, which means our function has to be async. Yeah, if people aren't super familiar with promises, just you write async in front of the function, and then you write await inside of the function. So we're going to await browser storage local set. And this is we have to wait for it because it doesn't happen right away. So and we're going to set value. So this is this makes an object called value with a key of something, right? So that's going to be like 0 to 100 in local storage, and we called it value, which is like a little generic, but that's just like. And we're going to have async function init to set things up. And we're going to check the local storage first. So we're going to look for something with a key of value in the local storage. Storage local. And then if there is no value, we're going to give it a value. So if we don't find anything in local storage, we're just going to start at 0. And then we're going to take the slider and set it to that value we found in local storage if there's a value. And then we're going to call this set value and set the value there too. So if we don't get anything in local storage, we're going to set value to 0. We're going to set the local storage value to 0. Everything's zeroed out. But if the user changes, we're going to set value, which changes the value in local storage. And we'll see why we're changing it in local storage in a minute. So you just run that function. And then because it's an async function, you can like use then and catch and stuff. So catch is to get an error and console log it. So I've seen this in examples, but like yeah, like extensions kind of complain if you do console logs, but I don't know. Like if you do console logs and errors, it like gets a little unhappy. But anyhow, so now we're going to go. We got our cat. We got the polyfill manifest. Everything's loading. This is our pop-up code. It's just listening to the slider and changing the local storage. And then now we have the content script. Okay, so this is where. So we want to delete this. And then we're going to write the eyes, and we're going to write the function inside of the first one. And we only want to run this script once because these get interjected in every tab. We don't have multiple event listeners doing the same thing. So we're going to listen for this thing we're going to make up called has run. If it's already run, we're just going to return. And if this is the first time, we're going to set has run. True. And that's just a little guard to make sure it only runs once. And then we're going to create a style tag that we're going to just like add right to the web page of like whatever the active tab is. So we're going to create a document, create element, and it's a style element. And we're just going to append it. And we're going to append that style tag. Okay. And we're going to go to browser storage. This is where it gets weird because it's like familiar, but different. So this one is on changed with a D. I don't know why it's like that, but it's on changed past tense, add listener. So it's not add event listener, it's add listener. It sounds basic, but like if you're doing late night coding, just be aware that those are different. And then we have changes. We're going to listen to changes in the local storage and area. And we'll see why in a minute. So browser storage can mean two kinds of storage. So it can mean session storage or it can mean like local storage. That's what area is all about. So we have to do a check. So we need to check if the area is local storage. And we're looking for that thing we called value in changes. And this is actually going to be a string. And we are going to do this. We're going to hit this update. It's in my cache. Anyways, and we're going to go changes, value, and we're going to look for the new value. And this is just like part of the API, how the storage API works. Like if you're curious, you could look up the documentation for the local storage. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to console log browser storage has changed. And then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do changes. So this will help me just log out what all the changes are so we can look. Semicolon. We're going to go to function update. This is the update function we're writing, and this is where we're going to actually change the web page. So if you go to your style.inner text, we're just going to give it some, like, we're just writing directly to like the style tag. So if this is just like regular CSS here. So this is filter. And we're going to do grayscale. Also, I don't know if like people can see, but just use the backslashes. And we're going to put in the value, and we're going to make that 8%. Yeah, so did I do this right? Okay, yeah, I am missing round brackets around the value here. And that shouldn't be a $sign. And this is going to be %. So it should be grayscale, round brackets, value with a %, because we're setting it in %. And because we're in extension land, we're going to use that all important keyword that you should never not really use in other kinds of code, but comes in handy here. And then we're going to do browser, storage, local, get, then results, and we're going to call update result.value. Result of value. Okay, so just to recap, what this does the content script and the pop-up script can't speak to each other directly. So what we're doing in this example is they're getting them to speak to each other through local storage. So the pop-up, when you change the slider, it's going to set a value in the local storage, and then the content script is going to listen for changes to local storage and then update accordingly. So here we're going to have another console log. And this is going to say value has changed, and value. This is just in case we have like a typo or anything. We can see where things are breaking. So we'll save that.
You just zoom out, or yeah, I just missed that part with dot then result. Got it. Thanks.
Cool. Does anyone want to see any of the other code before I go and load this? I could flip to the pop-up for just a minute. Again here, I'm going to add a pop-up is setting value, and I'm going to just do curly bracket value, just to see if everything's running as expected. And then we're going to go to Chrome, and we're going to hit this round reload button. So we're going to hit reload.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, and then to really test this out, you have to go to something with lots of images. Okay, so value has changed. Value is undefined. Whew, that does not sound promising. Oh, there's numbers here, 42, and it's going grayer. So it's a little subtle, but you can see if I turn it off, there's colors. And then if I turn the slider, it's like grayscale.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Another amazing extension.
Yeah, so at least this one you can turn it on and off, so it's like not annoying to people. So yeah, like I guess like the regular world, you don't really want to communicate slowly, like only through local storage. I could see that getting really unwieldy if you're like sending dozens and dozens of events. But we're going to talk about that in a bit. What's our time check? Oh, wow. Okay. So we have the basic pop-up. So we want to recap. Content scripts use regular dev tools. Browser action, which creates a pop-up for you, uses another dev tool. Background scripts, that uses yet another dev tool, I think. And usually your background scripts is where you want to open a port. So if you're sending dozens and dozens of messages, you want to open this thing like this port, and it's like a WebSocket. And yeah. What happens if you want the pop-up or background script to tell the content script to do something? So you saw in our example, we used local storage, but that's like, you don't want to do that in the long run. So this is where we have to learn a concept that gets a little weird. It's called message passing. And it's like, I guess it's sort of like dispatching events. It's kind of like that. But it's a little bit foreign if you're not familiar. Like if you've maybe if you've worked with like WebSockets and stuff, it's sort of familiar. But there's a couple of like tricky things about it. So one-off messages versus many messages, browser runtime versus browser tabs. How does each script in your extension know that the message is for them? That's a hard part, because usually when people have browsers, they have like, they're probably running 6 to 12 extensions, maybe more. And like, you don't want to be sending the message to the wrong extension. So there's like some technical stuff here. So each content script is injected to each tab. So when we have that pop-up, that content script is getting injected into this page. It's also getting injected into this page. It's injected into your other tab, and so on and so on. And each tab has a tab ID. And we have to ask the web extensions API to give us the browser ID. So to send the message to the content script, you have to specify the tab ID, or else it won't work. And I think it silently fails, or fails in like a terrible way. So there's this code snippet here. You have something called current tab, and then you have to query the tabs by doing browser tabs query. You have to pass it these two values, like give me the active window and give me the current window, and then you'll get an array of tabs. So you want to set the current tab to the first one. That's the active tab. So yeah, that's that complicated bit of code. And then the next one is to the content script, you go browser tab, send message, current tab, ID, and whatever you want. So yeah, first argument is the current tab ID and whatever you want to send in your message. So this is where it's good to like maybe sit down and like kind of architect your message sending system, so you're not just like all your messages are sent in sort of a nice neat format. Yeah. And then in the content script, you have to use browser runtime on message add listener. So that's a difference. So when you're sending it to the content script, like from say a pop-up, you have to use browser tabs send message, because you're sending a message to a particular tab, to a particular content script. But when the content script is listening, it has to listen with browser runtime on message add listener. To send many messages, it's easier to open a port with runtime on connect. I just didn't do that in this workshop because you can do a lot with just like basic message sending. Like if you're just building kind of like little extensions for yourself and your friends, or like a fun one like this, or even like internal tools. Like if you're building internal tools, like let's say, I don't know, you have like an app with 5 different user profiles and you're lazy, you can make a pop-up that logs in for you with different users, so you don't have to type it in all the time, that kind of thing. If you have a design system, I think Chris built one where it's like, it's a pop-up and when you hit the button, it just like overlays the design system grid. So.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and that stuff is like fairly doable with like the stuff you learn in this workshop. I feel like you don't need to know like tons about the web extension API because it's mostly writing content scripts, but I think the hard part is getting your head around the message sending, because it is a little weird and it's not normal. So, okay. I'm going to talk about this. Hopefully the pictures help. So, you know, when you use React, you use JSX, right? But like when you have a build tool, it's actually taking all that JSX you write and it's writing a bunch of React crate elements, which means that you need to have a bundler or some kind of build tool in there somewhere. I'm just going to call this bundler here, but that's usually Veed or Webpack or Create React App or something. But so when you build a React app, you have React, you have any of the modules you write, images, index. This is like very oversimplified, but basically at the end, you have your index, you have your bundle, which is usually like React, any libraries you've imported and like all your other modules, and you have images. So bundlers, like when you use Veed, like a Veed template, and you go make me a React TypeScript, it's like, this is what it's expecting, right? But extension build is a little more complicated. So you have to use slightly different tooling. So for an extension, you have a manifest, and then you're going to have React, images, and your content script. And it needs to output a manifest, your images, React, and a content script. But if you add in a pop-up, then it also needs to export that in the build. And that is not fun unless you use special tools to do that, because if not, you're going to be like, if you're in Veed or in your Webpack, you're just going to be adding more and more entry files and more output files all the time. So what's better is to use tools that read the manifest and can detect if you've added new key value pairs to the manifest, and make sure those new scripts you added get outputted. But you still wanted to take all of your JSX and turn that into React create element, so your React will work in your browser extension. Does that make sense? Everyone's got that kind of idea-ish? So yeah, initially I was going to walk through how to do all this, and then yeah, I did a dry one with friends, and they're like, don't make people do this from scratch. So that's why we have the repo. But I just want to explain, there's different ways. I thought at first, like, you can only do this in Parcel. So there is the Parcel web extension, which I guess is getting shared in the chat. So for Parcel, you want to use config web extension. And then for people who really like using Veed, is everyone familiar with Veed? Veed is like the new build tool that people
Newest hot, sexy, very fast and performant build tool.
Yeah.
Keep going.
So Veed is like, yeah, people really like Veed, but there's different ways to do it in Vite, but like don't like I've used a couple of like off the shelf web extension templates, and like your mileage might vary. The one thing I find works with Vite is because Vite's really just like kind of roll up. You can have it's a roll up Chrome. I think it's called Chrome extension. So yeah, it's a roll up plugin Chrome extension. And so for Vite, you can actually use that here. And like their instructions are like a little, it's missing, you know, with Vite, you have to, yeah, you might have to specify like that your build source is like SRC or something, like where you stick your React code. Yeah, so I have a version working and I just haven't gotten around to doing a blog post about how to set it up. So you don't have to like download someone's extension template that maybe doesn't work for you. This one will automatically read changes to your manifest JSON. So if you add or remove JavaScript files, it'll like update your build accordingly. Yeah. Where am I here? Okay. So the other thing is, if you use any images, they have to be in this thing called web accessible resources. Any image files used by extension must be declared by the manifest. So if you want to, like in this one, we're going to inject images into a web page. You have to put that in the web accessible resources key. So this is going to be a demo for React popup. Okay. So I'm going to change the web extension workshop. Hopefully everyone's like yarned by now. And this one is going to be, oops. Okay. I'm in the wrong one. Okay. That is also the wrong one. Okay. Oh, I see what happened here. It opened it in my other monitor. Just bear with me. Okay. I'm just gonna make this a tiny bit bigger. There you go. Okay, so there's instructions here. I'm just gonna walk through the stuff a bit. There's some assets. So I have my icons. Those are gonna be my icons in my pop-up. I think this is some image I should have gotten rid of, but I didn't. This is the cat we're going to inject into the web page. And that's kind of our idealized design, which we're going to do with Tailwind, just because like I'm not a good designer. And so Tailwind kind of helps me out with that. And then, yeah. So this should all be kind of set up, but like sort of empty. So we're going to have, this is just some Tailwind stuff. Like you don't need to know how to use Tailwind, but we're going to talk a bit about how to debug Tailwind just to make your life a little easier. I think I just chose MIT, like not that people need to use this. This is going to create a dist. So you can see when I'm running it, it's going to be in dist. But if I run a build, Parcel is doing this weird thing where I'll go dist and it creates a new folder called webexprod. So we might run into little issues with that, but maybe we'll just leave it in dev mode for now because it's more just to talk about the concepts. So I guess we'll start with our pop-up. Okay, so let's see here. Oh yeah. We don't have to like import React anymore these days with the latest version. So, so we're just going to import browser from web extension Polyfill, which you should have. Like hopefully it'll auto hint that to you. And then we're going to say we're just going to like export fonts pop-up. And we're going to return, just so we know it's like there, right? And then we're going to go to, this is just going to stick React in, React from, oh yeah, React. And we're going to import React DOM from React DOM. And then we're going to import the pop-up. There we go. It figured it out for me. And then we're going to do React DOM render. So let's see if it likes this. Sometimes it gets mad. Okay. And we're going to have the pop-up. And we're going to have document get element by ID. And that's going to be root. Okay. And then for our index, we're going to do that trick again, where we choose the exclamation, then we hit enter. And we're going to call this pop-up. And then for our body, let's see here. How far do I want to get into this? Okay, we need to have a div with a root. So we're going to go div ID equals root. And then we're going to have class, and it's going to be min h full. And then we're going to have a script type equals module. Okay, so this module thing is a parcel thing. So when you use parcel, you have to tell it that it's a module. This is the other thing that's like, I guess, if you're not familiar with how parcel works, I'm just going to give a really quick explanation, or else this is going to be like really confusing. Okay, so the thing with parcel is that you can do weird stuff like link SAS files and TypeScript files. And then parcel knows to output that as a JS file, and then it changes that in your final build. So that's how that works. And I'll show you like when we do a build, like how that's gonna look. Okay, we got that. And then on our content script, maybe we're just gonna have console log from the content script. Okay, so let's try this out. Oh, I think, oh yeah, the manifest is already like all set up. So yeah, we have the content scripts. It's linking to that. We have our web accessible resources. Now I'm asking for a bunch of permissions. I want to do stuff in tabs in the active tab, and then all of our icons and stuff here. So we're going to load unpacked, and we're going to go out of grayscale, and we're going to go, oh yeah, we're going to go dist. And let's see. So this one is pet replace. Oh, I did use that icon, and it's terrible because I'm always in dark mode, and I don't know how to always turn it off in the nighttime. But yes, there's an icon there, and there's a bunch of errors, and that's because I got to switch back to here, and then I got to open my terminal. And what are the instructions? If yarn development mode, yarn start. I'm going to do that. Yarn start. Okay, so I'm not sure how the localhost thing works. Maybe someone, I think I knew at one point, but obviously I forgot it. But if you look at the assets, you can see they just copy the images over. And for the pop-up, see, instead of, it like takes that main.tsx and it changes it to a bundled JavaScript file. So it like strips out the TypeScript type definitions, and then, yeah. So just out of curiosity, I'm gonna go here. Oh, it shows you your pop-up code. So if you wanna just go and edit your pop-up this way, you can do it. That's in Firefox, but I think, okay. So now I'm going to hit reload because now, oh wait, I have errors. I'm gonna clear those. When you use parcel, you're gonna get a lot of these like something errors, and then I usually just kind of clear them if they don't come back. I assume it's just like a weird parcel glitch thing, and then yeah. Failed to load extension. Manifest is not valid. Could not load manifest. Retry. Okay, so it's just not happy with the manifest. Let's see here. What is going on with the manifest? Pet replace. Oh, it's adding like weird stuff. Huh. Let's see. This could be kind of tricky because Yeah, there could be a bug with the parcel extension that it's like injecting stuff that like we don't like. But let's take a look here. Oh, I think I know what's happening here. I'm going to remove this. Yeah. And then I'm going to load unpacked. And then, yeah, I'm going to make sure I'm loading the dist folder. Maybe I wasn't doing that before. Oh, still got an error. Clear all. Reload. Okay, I'm just going to clear that for now. And I'm going to look.
Something about
This is the reality of web extension. Yesterday we had a lot of stuff that popped up too. Can be tedious.
connection to the hot module reloader was lost or whatever was in the error message.
Yeah, but sometimes that doesn't mean anything. So we're going to find out. So let's see. Okay, so to make things a little less confusing, I'm going to remove the grayscale one. So we don't have to see that. And then we hit reload. Okay. I'm going to remove grayscale. Yeah. And reload. And we have hello from the content script. And that's the code we wrote. And then we have the pop-up, which says hello. And it's that pop-up index file. So we know we're looking at the right code. And yeah. Okay, so things are like sort of working. We're gonna just do like a bit of styling to the pop-up, just so we're not looking at something that's like a little like something. Let's look at something fun. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have a div, and inside of that I'm gonna have two buttons. So that's one button. And let's see here. Let's see. Okay, so we got two buttons, right? And then we're going to have one say cats, and we're going to have one say dogs. And then we're going to we have here. Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. So we're going to have an image, and we want it to link to our assets. Oh, it doesn't do anything fun like that. Okay. So we're going to go like that. And then what's our assets? So it's cat 512. I think it's cat 512 page. And for the dog, we're going to have an image. And it's assets, dog 512 PNG. And it's dogs. And then now we're going to add a bunch of classes. So to the outside div, we're going to have a class. And it's going to be flex call. That's really the direction. We're going to put stuff in the center. So it's item center. I'm going to give it a gap of 3. If you don't know Tailwind, like, don't worry about it, but just like you can just copy and paste the classes. Maybe someone can drop them into the chat or something. Okay, and then it's justify center with 48, PHP 3, and okay, this is gonna get long. It's background gradient to R min H full from emerald 500. That's how this is like kind of how gradients work in Tailwind. So it's 2 emerald 400. So that should be outside. The button, we're going to have a click here. So we're going to have on click, and we're going to have handle cats, and that doesn't exist yet. So we're just going to write handle cats. We're just going to do this for now. And we're going to have another one, const handle dogs. Okay. So we're going to add a bunch of classes here, and it's text LG. Let's see here. Flex none PY1. So that's padding on like the top and bottom. PX3 rounded large BG.
Oh, do you need a class name? Are you in a React file?
Yeah, like should I just copy them in? Oh yeah, should I show that or?
Oh, I think you just typed class instead of class name.
Oh yeah, you are so right.
Is this from Ember, perhaps?
And yeah, I'm so used to
Debugged.
type. Yeah, thank you.
This stuff happens every day.
Oh, it's hard switching, you know.
Yeah, it's like that from Angular and Vue as well. It's just class, I think.
I think they gracefully let you and give you a nice warning message.
I typed class name in like normal HTML by accident all the time.
Yeah, it's weird. Like I guess I did React for quite a few years, but now I'm in Ember, so I'm like, I forget now. It's amazing. You just like that knowledge, it just disappears from your head the minute you don't use it anymore.
Muscle memory.
Yeah, items, center, justify.
I find the syntax to be both infuriating and both very facile when you pick up a framework like, or sorry, style framework like the Tailwind.
Yeah,
It's just
I mean, this
so
part,
long.
so I'm going to copy and paste that, and we have that here. And I think the main difference is this margin right is not on it. And then I have a little bit of a bug, which is I need to do that. Let's see how this looks. We're running in that. Okay, so it's not quite what I was expecting. Oh yeah. What was I gonna say? Okay, so that's getting there. Oh, there is one thing I wanted to show because like I sort of discovered this yesterday, or I mean I knew some of it, but Tailwind uses all these classes, right? Can people see how this says CLS here? You can click that and then you get all the classes. You can kind of like subtract them or add them. Or if you want to add like a different text size, you can go, if you type in text, all the available Tailwind classes will show up as like auto hints. So I just kind of discovered that yesterday. So if you want to go in and start messing with the colors and stuff, you can kind of just do that and sort of explore Tailwind.
I think if you're using like just in time mode or whatever, you're only going to get like what's been used already though, sadly.
Oh yeah, that is sad. So
It
yeah,
is, I tried it today. I was like so excited and then I got like one class. So beware.
yeah, your mileage might not go as well then. Sucks that just in time compile mode is faster, but it does have
It's
that.
good. You just need the IntelliSense in your VS
What is
Code and you'll be
this just in time mode?
Yeah.
Is it like a parcel thing or a Firefox feature?
No, it's like it's a setting for Tailwind where it doesn't include any classes that you haven't actually used.
Yeah. So it makes
like pre-shaking.
builds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I forgot something when I did this index file. So I'm going to type it out here so you can all kind of see. Okay. So before your title, I'm going to make a style sheet. So this is going to link to that index.css I made. So there you go. And it's also like giving us nice auto hints about how to write it. And then this is, I'm just, you know what, I'm going to like just go to Google Fonts here. So if I go Google Fonts, I'm just going to install like a Google font. So I think the one I chose was this one. And I just want, I think it's like, I got a really bold one. So, oh yes, I already have it here. So I'm just going to copy and paste this one. Actually, it wants me to do all this stuff because that makes it like load better. So I'm just going to copy and paste that here. So let's see how this looks. We reload. I'm going to inspect. So we have our style sheet, our pop-up, index here is here. Okay. Looks like our Tailwind styles aren't fully on, but maybe I need to add in a bit more styles here. On the body tag, I have this style here. I put min width, 100 pixels. And let's see. Yeah. We're gonna hit reload and we're gonna look. Here it's broken though.
Oh no,
There we go.
here we go again.
Okay, so we got a bunch of classes. We have the word cats and the word dogs, and we have assets cats 512. Maybe people can let me know here. If I go to sources, what do we have here? We go to assets. Oh, something
Busted.
something is very busted.
Broken pics.
This happened before.
This has never happened before, but. And then I have the package JSON.locked. It's there in dist. And it's there. And we see it in development mode. Let's try to do a build. So I'm going to do a yarn build.
Someone in the audience said, should you be using perhaps the /assets/cat? So in the relative pathing.
Oh, let's try that.
Yay.
Okay, so it's yarn start, right? So in here, right? Yeah. Should it be like that? Is that what?
Yeah, like .. / so you're going up another.
Let's give it a shot.
Let's give it a shot and let's try it. So. Okay, is the code running? Yeah, it's there. And we're gonna go ignore those.
Just ignore the
Probably a
error.
hard refresh.
No worries.
What does it not like about this manifest? It seems to have very mixed feelings.
That's valid JSON.
Could not load manifest. Let's take a look. Okay, so this is our manifest. Permissions, content scripts is an array, web accessible resources, permissions in array, browser action. That looks pretty good to me. Let's go into JSON validator. Let's take a look. Looks like it likes that. And I'm gonna, sometimes I get a little bit of, if I load it here, sometimes Chrome, like Firefox, will give you a few more descriptive errors. So let's see. So that's here and that's here. Yeah. So it's showing up in Firefox, no problem.
Didn't someone say that their extension was only working on Firefox and not Chrome today too?
Oh,
Is that the grayscale one or was that?
I think that was Grayscale,
like
but it's kind of strange, finicky.
yeah, we haven't got to the stage where we're putting in the polyfill yet, but I was kind of hoping we could just like focus on the styling first. Because there's a few things like I'm looking at here. It's not great. Okay, so we have, okay, so we got our Google fonts. Let's have our index CSS. Is it letting us look? No. See, that's a thing. Like, yeah.
The pain of compiled, extremely compiled CSS that you can't debug.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, I think I know what's happening. So it looks like parcel is, if you go to the manifest in the dist folder, parcel is like sticking in their auto reload stuff, and maybe it's like for whatever reason busted today. So I'm gonna hit stop, and then I'm gonna hit yarn build. And maybe then lock in the package JSON. So like, yeah, it's I use like just get me the latest okay version, which is wrong, and you should not do that. I should fix that in the repo and pin those versions. So just for people who don't know, like when you have that caret, it like it'll just keep looking for the next version. So if I have 2.01, it'll install 2.02 or 2.03. But maybe people rolled out some updates that like were not great in that. So yeah, I should go back and pin it to the last version I know that works. But for now, we're going to run yarn build. And then it builds. So now this is weird. So it goes into dist webx prod, and then we're going to have to point Chrome to that. So we're going to remove this, and then we're going to load unpacked, and we have to point it to webx prod now. And let's see if it likes that. Seems to be okay. So we're going to pin pet replace, and we're going to go here. Okay, so now our stuff's showing. Cats is very small, and dogs is very small, and yeah, not quite sure. We do have a more of a friendly pop-up size, but it looks like none of our Tailwind classes are like rendering. So let's take a look. Did I use class name in all the right places? Class name, class name, class name. When you inspect this, we can see all those class names. Let's see here.
But can you see like the values if you look at the style rules, or are you going to see like min h full? It'll tell you what it does.
Yeah.
Do you see that loaded?
Yeah. So if I go back to, I'm going to flip. So if I
scroll down in style, because we should see
See, I don't
Tailwind there, and we're not, so it's not loaded.
Yeah. So Tailwind is like not loading. So it's like that. Where is it here? That index is not linking to the right file. So what's my if I go to index CSS, I don't see an index CSS over here. So that link is probably incorrect, right? So
yeah. Is that where all the Tailwind stuff's imported?
Yeah. So because there's no index in the final build, right? So let's see if I type in
suspect.
That
Is
link
this not like actually I can't tell here because if you're in the index.html.
Yeah, I'm in the index HTML of the pop-up, and it should. This is where your Tailwind classes get like exported. But like if you look here, this is the dist folder, right? So that's where our build is going, and it goes into.
Ali is suggesting you try /index because it's in the root folder. Let's see.
Like that?
Yeah. Oh, we don't see it.
No, it's because the index CSS is not in the source folder at build time, and it's not compiled with the rest.
Okay, so if I go to index, it seems like it's index.src. And the manifest is in the same level as the index file. And let's see, content scripts.
Are you using parcel in this?
Yeah.
Parcel you can interpolate. Wait, you're not using Sass though.
Yeah, parcel, it should usually just work by like, if I go to the index and I link the index file, like, let's see, rel style sheet, href, and I had /index. And then let me check. I'm checking against like my working version. my dist is empty. No, so pop up. Yeah, so what happens here is that the pop-up should have a CSS file in here. So it's this thing. So it's like, I think I maybe missed a step where it's like, this should be getting turned into a bunch of Tailwind classes. So let's take a look at our Tailwind config. We have JIT mode. We're looking at SRC. We want to, this is all, what purge is like kind of like your template tags. So it should just be looking for your JavaScript, your HTML, anything you stick JSX in.
What version of Tailwind you're using? Did it upgrade to 3 and you were not originally using that? I don't know.
Yeah. So Tailwind's 3, and yeah. What's our time check? Like we're at 8:30.
8:30.
8:30. Yep.
Should we continue? Just like I can keep going with the other stuff, and we can figure out the Tailwind stuff. Maybe, yeah, because like you guys have the build code, so like maybe someone can take a look at the Tailwind setup really quick, and then we can just continue with the message sending.
Yeah, that works. I think because this goes on for another half hour.
Okay.
Here's
a post
at most another hour. So yeah, but we're hoping that it ends in half hour. So yeah, whichever you see are the important parts.
Okay, so I missed this post CSS RC file here. Like I noticed it's missing. So I'm just gonna stick this in quick. And this is auto prefixer. Okay. And we're just gonna run another build really quick. That looked different. And our pop-up, that looks a bit better. So we're gonna go here. I'm gonna close this. And then I'm gonna hit reload. Okay, I'm just gonna ignore that for a second. And what is it doing? This is the build version.
Apparently Tailwind 3 doesn't use purge anymore if you're using just JIT mode. Yeah, content.
Yeah, but what does it not like about this manifest it's making? I'm just gonna look here for a second, and I'm gonna go here. So it should be content.
Yeah, it says content and an array with like the paths.
Okay.
Maybe this will help. I have no idea. I think you remove JIT. It says you can safely remove it in version 3. So let's see what happens.
Oh, like is everything JIT in version 3?
I guess, yeah. It says it just does it automatically.
Okay.
I'm using 2, so I'm not sure how this works, but let's see what happens.
Okay. So let's see here. And we're going to reload, cancel. I'm going to remove it. And I'm going to load it again. WebEx prod, select. See, now it doesn't care about the manifest error. Oh, it's because I have to delete the error or something. Like, I don't know. Okay, so we're going to pin the pet replace. We're going to look at it, and it's looking marginally better. Not quite the ideal, but we'll fix the styling later. But it's like getting there. And if we go here, we should just see, like, I don't think we did a console log for the pop-up, but we know that the content script is working correctly because we've seen that code. And yeah, let's get back to the React stuff. Okay, so if we go into our pop-up, this is like, because the index and main are just kind of bootstrap files. So yeah, we have text, large, flex. Yeah, we're going to have our handled cats and handled dogs. So we're going to import browser. We already did that. And we're going to have current tab, and that's going to be any. And then we're going to have browser tabs query, and it's going to be active true and current window true. And then because we're using that kind of promise-based API, we're going to have a then, and then we're going to have tabs. Tabs current tab equals tabs 0. Okay. And then we're gonna each time we hit handle cats, we're gonna send a message. So we're gonna go browser tabs, and we're gonna send a message, and it's gonna be the current tab ID. And I'm just making this up. You can name it whatever you want, but I'm gonna call this one swap with cats. I think that's what I want. Yeah, I want swap with cats. And then I'm just going to copy this line and kind of do this exact same thing. And I'm just going to change this to dogs. So that's all we're doing in this. The pop-up, we got 2 buttons. We send the message depending on which button you click. And then we're going to go to the content script. And then we're going to delete this line. And then we're going to import browser web extension polyfill. And then we're gonna, this is I'm gonna do some cheating TypeScript here. It's not like good TypeScript, but we're gonna extend the window object because we're gonna add stuff to that has run thing to the window. So I'm just gonna put it here, make that a Boolean. And then we're gonna, there's this thing when you use the declare keyword, that's like an ambient declaration. It's like saying, hey, window, don't use like the regular window use object, use our custom window because we've added that run thing. So TypeScript won't yell at us. And then we're gonna do the eyes again, and we're gonna write that immediately invoke function expression. And we're going to say if the window, we run it already, don't run it again. Kind of like the last time. And then we're going to set window run to true. So this is like kind of code we've seen before. Okay, what is going on here? It's not about something. Extends, yes. All the lines go away, typo. Now we're just going to listen for messages. So we have browser, runtime, on message, add listener, and this is going to listen for that command word I talked about. We're going to console log the command in case we have issues. And we have let URL, it could be a string, or it could be nothing, come back as nothing. So we're going to switch and okay, so we got 2 cases here, right? The first case is swap with cats. And in that case, the URL is, again, this is like cheating TypeScript. Don't do this. Like if you're going to write a TypeScript extension in the future, like you can download types for the browser API. I just didn't do it this time. So we have browser.extension as any. Again, big cheat. Don't do this in TypeScript. Get URL. Okay, this has to be capital URL. And this is going to be assets. Please auto guess for me. No, it's not going to do that. Okay, so this is the cat. No, this one's a cat. So I'm just going to do this, try to copy it. And I'm going to get back to my last file, which is this one. And I'm going to paste that in there. And that is a JPEG. And so the next case is, okay, so then we hit, and we're going to go break. And the next case is swap with dogs. And in that case, the URL is going to be this one. So I'm just going to click, maybe I can do copy relative path. Let's see what that does. And then if I do that here, yeah, that's kind of close. I think I don't need the SRC. So yeah, it's mad about a lot of stuff. We'll figure that out in a minute. I think it's like mad because it wants a default or something. So
Script always mad.
yeah, it's always
Just
mad.
You got to do things right.
Okay, what's it's mad about? Let URL. Is this a TSX file? It's a TSX file.
Yeah.
Just switch on the URL. No, you're switching on the command.
Yeah.
Is it expecting the URL to be returned?
Someone says there's some missing parentheses somewhere.
That is quite possible. Okay. So
Where? After command, line 5. Let's go to line 5.
line
We
5.
think it's line 5. Yeah.
Let's see. So it wants this.
Add
Command.
listener.
Oh, I think it's this.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank
yes.
you. Thank you from
Yay.
thank you from the crowd. You guys are great at debugging.
What is this one? Does it just want one? Is that what's happening there?
It's beautiful.
Not be angry. Okay. So I think we have to run the build again. And actually, no, we're not done. So we have a URL. I got to do something with it. So if URL actually ends up being something, then we do something. So we're going to take images and we're going to go to document, get elements by tag name. And we're going to just get all the image tags. And then we're going to go from images length I++. And then we're going to do console log replacing. We're going to check what our URL is in case the link is like not a good one. And we're going to go images I. So the current image, when we're looping through all the images, we're going to change the SRC. So this should technically go in to every image tag, go to the SRC, and then this get URL is part of the extensions API. It just gets an asset from your web accessible resources. So like if you look, where is it here? Here, these are the web accessible resources. So it's the cat icon and the cat picture and the dog picture. So let's try building this and see what happens. Okay. So knowing Chrome, I'll probably get mad. And I'm going to remove it. And I'm just going to re-add it. You shouldn't have to do this. I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but that's not a normal thing. So yes, anyhow. It seems to be in, there's no errors. And then if I go to edit place here, we have a little bit mangled. But if we go to here, let's see if it works. So we're going to scroll down to some pictures and we're going to hit the cat. Yeah. And then we have all cats.
Wow. Again, we are so powerful now, thanks to Nicole.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a bug, like the dogs isn't working. So like
Because dogs aren't as good as cats. I'll be seeing myself up.
So if we look into the console, what are we seeing here when I kick? Oh, this is another thing I kind of struggle with a little bit here. I'm gonna, whoa, Magnet, you do weird things when I'm like running multiple monitors. So I'm just gonna manually resize this here. Yeah, Magnet does not like Zoom and multiple monitors. Okay. So what's the we're not doing anything in the pop-up. So maybe we're not debugging the pop. We should actually, yeah. Okay, I am just struggling because I need to close this pop-up for a second and I need to look at the console. Okay, later. I don't want to subscribe to you, block to you. And then I'm going to clear that. And then I'm going to hit, yeah. Is it just my browser so small I can't even pull it up now? Yeah, I need to stretch this out. Yeah, cats, swapping of cats. That looks, we know the cats works. Oh, it's not getting the dogs.
We have a suggestion from the crowd. We may have forgotten to handle dogs function in the on click.
Yeah,
Forgot dogs.
Again, the Prime Minister delivers.
thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks very much.
I don't even know why I'm helping today. We should just swap roles.
Yeah, this is great though. This is a bit of like mobbing on thing. Okay, so let's see. It looks like we got to build that again. Yeah, and then we got to go to Chrome, go to our extensions. Let's see if it just, no, it's mad again. I'm just going to remove it and then I'm going to re-add it. Again, not sure why that's happening, but we're going to pin it and we're going to open this up. We're going to click dogs, cats. Okay. Now neither of them are working.
Oh no.
Let's see here. Okay, so we have swap with cats, swap with dogs, and then in our pop-up, so we have browser tab send message. We're sending the current ID. Handle cats is going to browser tab sends message, handle cats. Handle dogs is going to, yeah. I think it just like did something weird here. So
How about you reload everything?
yeah. Because I think the code looks okay to me. Like there's nothing weird there. So let's, what's this error? It says anonymous function, clear all. Let's see if I reload. Okay, so I'm gonna, oh wait, I'm gonna remove it and then I'm going to load the unpacked. And I'm gonna select that and then pin it and then maybe I should just reload my page here. So we have cats, dogs. Okay, let's see.
So it's replacing. Let's see.
Let's make this a little bigger so we can see.
Dogs. We've done it again.
Yeah, here come dogs.
So we have a half busted tailwind build. So it doesn't look like the idealized design, but we have a basically kind of working thing. And that's like, yeah, that's the basics. I have a blog post on setting up the parcel thing, and then I'm gonna write a blog post soon on setting up like it with Vite. Because with Vite, it's pretty simple. It's like you follow the React template one, and then like you install that roll-up thing, and then you just add that configuration, that roll-up configuration. So I'll try to do a post and a repo about it soon for people that are using Vite. Yeah, and I think that's it for the end of the demos. We're at 8:46. Thank you for the people who managed to make it to the end. It was a little tough there, and thanks for your help. Because when you're stuck live coding, you're really stuck. So
No, that was like really awesome. And that was very real. Yeah, reload, remove.
Nicole, are you going to be sharing this repo? Are we going to be able to link this in Toronto.js?
yeah, I don't know why I made the repo with the working code. I should just make it live. I had it as a private repo because, like, you know, when you're like building it still, like you don't want your crappy code to be out there. But yeah, I'll like make it public so people can poke around. Another thing, like if you're really getting into building web extensions, is I guess maybe this got mentioned already, but there's web extension examples by Mozilla. So I think that's like linked in the resources. So you should check that out because you can do all sorts of other things like read people's text and search through their browser history and, you know, interrupt their network requests and all sorts of stuff. So Yeah, but you can do a lot with just this basic pop-up, like I said, like building a pop-up like this where you can like, you know, overlay grid lines on a page or change colors, kind of preview things, switch from light mode to dark mode. Like you can do that with just this amount of JavaScript. So
Yeah, no, I think we perhaps made 3 really like compact like browser extensions in just the last like 1 hour and 45 minutes. So I think that, yeah, that was a crash course on those like very like simple APIs. So I'm super happy about it, and also the group debugging as well. That was like wonderful together.
yeah,
I personally have never used Tailwind, so the pain of how version plus build tool
Yeah.
specific this is very familiar.
yeah.
Gotta watch out for those versions.
And let that be a lesson. Always pin your dependencies, even for little side projects.